Hello, I'm Emma of Granola Gear, and I'm so excited to be chatting with you again today. And today we were talking about a very exciting topic, and that is spring knitting plans. So it's warming up. I live in like the Boston area, and we've had a few 60-degree days, which is crazy. We got some cold here and there. The the morning may start in the 30s, but it's warming up, and that is very exciting. In past years, I like last year was probably my first big warm weather knitting year. I hadn't really knit summer knits before that. So I really got started early with that in like bigger pieces because I wanted to have some for summertime. This time, we're doing a little bit of like transitional first. I'm not going full bore into the summer knits yet because I don't feel as much pressure. So I'm going to take the time while I still can to do new shawls and vests and things like that um, that aren't summer, but are somewhere in between. Because in the fall, also transitional, I'm like ready to go with sweaters. So like there's no transition in fall for me. It's just summer to cold weather knits. So we're taking this warm weather in between to do something a little different this year. I'll start with what I'm wearing because every time I forget, I get a lot of questions. I'm wearing the vest number 2 spring edition, which is very appropriate for this by My Favorite Things Knitwear. It's just a DK weight V-neck vest. I really like it. I knit it in an unraveled sweater yarn that's partially wool. It's not perfect. My edges are a little floppy. You might be able to tell, but it's fine. It's a light piece. It doesn't get too hot. It's good for a little bit of extra warmth, but not too much. um, so let's get into it. I'll start really quick with 2 pieces that are on my needles right now that I would categorize as kind of spring pieces that I'm going to finish up for this year. The first one is the Champagne Pullover by Sari Nordland. I'll put up a picture of my piece and the end piece. And that is a DK weight pattern knit on 3.5 millimeter needles. It's all over like cable lace. I categorize this as spring because it is so much open lace cable work. So it's not really a winter sweater in my opinion. I'm knitting this in Jagerspun mainline 3/8 in the color Daffodil. I thrifted this cone of yarn and it's a really beautiful yarn, but I don't like the color yellow. So my plan is actually when I finish to over dye this in red. I think it's gonna be really beautiful. I'm very excited about this. This has been a cool piece. It's definitely a lot to get through all of the lace, but I just really enjoy the structure that the big open cables over the lace gives the piece. I don't always like really frilly things. It's like a little too feminine for me. So this was a good balance in my opinion. I really enjoy it. The next one that I have on my needles right now is the Tulip Loop Vest by Other Loops. This is an Aran weight pattern, I believe. It's knit on a US 7. What's that, a 4.5 millimeter? Yeah, 4.5 millimeter, I think. I'm knitting this in an unraveled sweater yarn, 60% merino, 15% cashmere, 15% angora, and 10% nylon, I believe. Yes, it's in this beautiful blue color. It's really nice cables. I love the staghorn cables that come along the V-neck. I really wanted to knit more vests this year, and I really like this one. It's got a nice split hem I'm excited about too. I did a split hem on this one as well. I think I have knit vests without split hems, but I think looser vests look really good with one. And it makes it easier to wear over other things, in my opinion. Really excited about this piece. I think it's super beautiful. I'm excited to have it off my needles and ready to go. Now let's get into the things I haven't started, but I hopefully plan to. The first one is something I've seen all over for forever, and I finally have a good opportunity to knit it, and I'm really excited about it. And that's the Pressed Flowers shawl. I have knit maybe 1 or 2 scarves shawls, not many. It hasn't been my thing. But this one is by Savory Knitting or Amy Christoffers, and I picked up a skein of yarn at a fiber festival that I'm really excited about. I'll put an image of it on the screen. I believe it's Bloom Woolens or Bloom Yarn, and it's their Solstice yarn, which is 90% wool, 10% mohair. And it's this beautiful, like springy pink purple color. I'm obsessed. It's a light DK weight yarn. This pattern is a DK knit on 4mm needles. Um, I think maybe the light DK yarn that I have is probably a little light for it. I'm pairing it with a 100% wool that I unraveled from a sweater. It's a cream white color, and that's going to be the main color, the white is. My contrast color is going to be the pinky purple because I don't think I have enough of it to be the main color, and I may still be a little off on that. But that's okay. I'm okay if it is a little bit smaller. Once I get to that point, I'll decide if I want to just continue with a different color yarn or if I just want to leave it at that depending on what the size is. But I love a good floral motif. It's so beautiful. I've never knit mosaic knitting before, so that'll be something new and fun. It seems like something that's more complicated, but not like difficult inherently. So it should be a good time. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to use this yarn. I picked it up at a fiber festival, like I said. The wool came from Massachusetts. It was spun in New York and dyed in Massachusetts, which is so fun to have something so local and beautiful. I'm so excited about it. It should be really beautiful. The next piece that I had actually in my winter knitting, but I'm going to include it in my spring knitting because it's a very light piece, so I think it still applies. If I can get it done finally, because I've been trying to use this yarn for forever and I like this piece, but that's the Floriste by Sari Nordland. It's a very lightweight, fingering weight cardigan on 3.5mm needles. Very lacy, very dainty. I have a unraveled hand-dyed superwash. I thrifted a number of years ago now, a hand knit sweater, and it had a couple holes in it. It was knit in this beautiful hand-dyed superwash yarn. So I frogged it, and I have just enough, I believe, to knit this sweater, and I would love to get that done. It's a really nice muted blue, not quite a tonal, but not like an aggressive variegation, just some darks and lights of blue. And I think that'll be a really beautiful piece. And I still want to knit it. I'm gonna do it. It might even be light enough that I can work on it in the summertime and it's not gonna kill me heat-wise, because woolly yarns in the hot, humid New England weather is not a good time. But I'm excited about that. Next, a piece that I have prepped and ready to go is the Cloud Tee by Petite Knit. This is a light fingering weight pattern on 3mm needles, and I picked up at the end of the season last year from a local yarn store some Tin Lena, which was on clearance. So I got a pretty good deal, and I bought enough for the Cloud Tee. I'm really excited about this. I know it's like a linen blend with other, I can't remember what it's with, lyocell or something like that, some other plant-y, ultra-processed plant-y fiber with the linen, but people really like it. I'm excited about it. It's like shiny, but hopefully not too shiny. I don't always love the really shiny processed summer weight yarns because it can be really hard to hide like your transition of like new skeins and like knots and all that. So hopefully it's okay, but I have it in like a purple color. I think it'll be really pretty. This will be a good basic. I've knit a few t-shirts that I've liked. I'm trying to like use what I've learned last year and make some things that are more wearable this year. And I'm very excited. Like I've said, I'm going to keep saying I'm really excited because I am. Next is a piece that I cannot get out of my head, and that is the Hey Sailor by Andrea Mowry. I have not knit an Andrea Mowry pattern. I don't dislike them, but a lot of them aren't quite my style, where some of them are more oriented to like a hand spun or what's it called? Spin cycle, like the spin cycle dyed in the wool kind of hand spun looking yarns. They're really beautiful, very expensive. So it's not something I'd want to attempt with something that was super tonal. So a lot of them I haven't given them a chance yet. But this one I love. It's another mosaic knitting piece. She does a lot of mosaic knitting. It's light fingering, knit on 3.25mm needles. And her sample is knit in Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino. I knit one piece in Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino last year. I knit the Twist Loop Tank by Other Loops. I really like that fiber, that yarn. I think it's a really good cotton wool blend that's not too woolly, because I really can't do any significant amount of wool in the summertime here. It's just too hot. But that was enough that it made the cotton a little bit nicer to work with, but it wasn't so much that I think it's going to make it super hot. I think because this is a boxy drop shoulder tee would also be a really good opportunity for that. I love the buttons down the front. Definitely a construction that will take a while because of how it's knit so flat, but I think it would be a really cool piece. I'm not sure what colors I would want to do. I'm thinking about placing a knitting for olive order for this summer, and I just have to decide, in addition to this, what other piece I might want to consider knitting in that yarn. So that is that one. I just think it's such a beautiful piece. I don't know, something about it. I love the shoulders, I love the boat neck, and it's reversible. You can wear it in the front, wear it with the buttons in the front or buttons in the back, which is super cool. I think it would be a good work piece too, actually, for me. I wear business casual, but we all wear that a little bit differently. So I think if I pick the right colors, it would work well for me. The next piece that hopefully I'll get to, some of these are like maybe it won't happen, is the Light Gems Wrap by 100 Acre Wool. It's a fingering weight piece knit on 3.75 millimeter needles. I have two, they're not plates like normal unspun yarn, but cakes, I guess, of Briggs and Little unspun yarn. I can't remember exactly what the name of it is. They're both a cream color. I actually thrifted both of them from two totally different places, like more than a year apart, but they're exactly the same. It's 5 strands of the unspun all wound up. And this yarn in her sample, she uses 2 strands of unspun. And I think I have enough to knit this wrap, or at least almost to the full length of it. I think it'd be really beautiful. I've never knit an unspun. I've really wanted to find a pattern that would work well with that. It's kind of a little scary to think of attempting a whole sweater in it, but I think a wrap would be a good piece. And I really love the cable lace pattern on this. I've been doing so much textured knitting lately. If you watch my podcast, you'll have seen that it's just textured knitting right now. So I kind of need a bit of a break, which is why I think I'm going to prioritize the pressed flower shawl over this one, even though I really like this one as well. It might come a little bit later in the season, or it may get skipped, but it's up there. It's a possibility depending on how my hands are feeling. But yeah, I really love that piece. Next is a possibility, and this one might end up happening in the summertime, but it's on the table like all these things, and that is a Cumulus Tee by Petite Knit. I've technically knit 2 of these, but neither of them were really super summery. One of them was in a 100% merino. That was kind of one of my experiments of, can I wear merino in the summertime? Like, will I be fine? Will it be too hot? And generally, it's too hot for me. It wasn't a super dense piece, but it was just too warm for summertime. So I learned my lesson. I'll still wear it sometimes, but I'm going to prioritize 100% merino. So at the end of the season, I placed a knitting for olive order, and I have, because I didn't get to it last year, knitting for olive pure silk in the color Dove Blue in a quantity enough for a Cumulus Tee. That's a light fingering weight piece knit on 3mm yarn needles. You can't tell, I have one set of 3mm tips, and I'm going to have to order a second because last year I was like juggling this one set of needle tips on like 3 projects, and that is not fun. The only other set of tips that I have duplicates for is my 4mm, because I use those so much with DK in the wintertime. It's nice to have 2 just in case. But yeah, I'm excited about that one because everyone loves that piece. I love a simple t-shirt, and that should last for a long time. The last possibility, and this is more of a wintry yarn, not wintry yarn, wintry pattern, but it's one of those maybes. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. I'm not totally sure. Depends on where we're at with things. And that is the Bergman sweater by Boylan Knitworks. It's a worsted weight pattern knit on 4mm needles. Part of why this is a maybe is because I already have the pattern and I already have the yarn. So if I find that it's not getting super hot super quick and I feel like I'm in a good spot, I might start that one. I have a 100% wool unraveled sweater yarn that's like an olive green, and I have leftover Isier from my Esther jacket that's a cream color that would go really well with that. So I have that set up. I have the Jensen and I have the Highland wool. I'll probably do a strand of each because I think I have the right quantity to do that. But yeah, so that's a possibility. All of this is very variable. It's not like summer or winter where I feel like I have a ton of time, where all of these projects really fit into this season. So it'll depend on how spring goes. If you want to know like how it's going, you're just gonna have to watch the podcast, listen to me chat through all the crazy. But yeah, those are all the patterns I have on the table. Some things that will kind of change my plans or like will feed into what happens this summer as well are what I decide to order for yarn. I'm pretty cautious about this. I have a good stash. It's largely winter stuff. I have some summer things that will need to get used. I know I have a DK weight yarn that I haven't picked a pattern for the summer yet for that's a Noro that I'm excited about. So that'll probably be a little later on, but I'm probably going to order from Knitting for Olive at least once. Um, I'd like to, like I said, place an order for the Hey Sailor cotton merino. I will probably pick something else to knit in the pure silk because I like that yarn. I think it's a great summer yarn. I just have to decide what it's going to be. Starry Nordland has a lot of really beautiful patterns that she uses it in, but they're DK weight and she holds things double. So I'm looking for something a little lighter because getting away with knitting a piece and just 4 skeins of that makes it a lot more reasonable price wise for me. Next is I will definitely consider another cotton order. Last year I placed an order for Drops Saffron and Drops Paris from Wool Warehouse, and I used that throughout the season. That's definitely something I'll consider again. I really, really liked Drops Saffron. It was a great fingering weight cotton, not too sticky on the needles, not too shiny. It was a really good balance and very wearable because it's not too heavy. So that's something on my list for fingering weights this year. But I'd also like to price out a few other things and maybe see what would make sense for this season. I also saw Hobby, however it is, has a really interesting cotton silk. It's 77% cotton and I think 23% barrette silk, which barrette silk is the same type of silk in the Knitting for Olive. Pure silk, it's not as shiny. I think it's less processed. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that was, I think it was a DK, light DK, but that looked really interesting. I have to price out if that's like a reasonable price. It probably is. It's Hobie, and I could probably get it on sale. You never know. But that was an interesting yarn that I saw that I would consider because I would think that the silk would make the cotton a little more durable and less likely to pill or whatever. So that's something I would also consider for this season. And that might be a good option for some of the DK weight Starry Nordland patterns that I'm looking at for this summer. But those are my plans for this season. Lots of things. I'm sure I won't get them all done, but we'll see. I'll give it my best shot. If you enjoyed this, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe. You can find me on Instagram at granola.gear and let me know what you're really excited to work on as the weather gets warmer. Or are you not into the warm weather knits at all? Are you going to power through with the cold weather stuff throughout the season? I need something that keeps me from knitting too many sweaters really at the end of the day. So it's kind of okay to have a little bit of a break. I've got lots. I hope you have a great day and happy knitting.